position, that first real job, the agency needed a DCF person to sit inside the headquarters of the state police and help coordinate the response when children in foster care went missing. A system in Florida filed dozens of reports each day for children who ran away from foster care. And anytime they weren't quickly located, a case would be opened with the state missing persons clearinghouse. For the next 3 years, I spent my days diligently reading through the case files of abused and neglected children, searching for information that might be helpful in locating them when they went missing. In each case, I read through the allegations and notes from the caseworkers, absorbing a world of abuse, abandonment, and neglect. I learned to recognize the signs that a foster child was involved in sex trafficking and notified care agencies when children were being victimized. It was, by turns, brutal and rewarding. The sheer darkness of the work took a toll on me mentally, and I would sometimes find myself crying in my car after a particularly disturbing case came up. Constantly reading about child abuse was difficult, but it became unbearable when my newly married wife told me she was pregnant. In every file, every broken bone and hollow-eyed victim statement, I saw my own child and wondered how such things were possible. As I was isolated from the main office at DCF, my work went largely unnoticed. But within the law enforcement world, my analytical abilities were being discussed behind closed doors. I was quietly encouraged to apply for a position as an intelligence analyst in the counterterrorism section. And after a series of interviews, the job was mine. Things slowly began to fall into place. I was moving into a career that I was proud of, and my wife and I were experiencing the sleep-deprived joy of our first child. On the other side of the country, a group of software engineers were perfecting a new way of working. Flush with millions in venture capital, they had launched an app that would allow users to call a private car to drive them to their destination. They hired computational neuroscientists, nuclear physicists, and an army of programmers to design a system that allowed any person to sign up and use their personal vehicle as a taxi. With infinite money and a brain trust dedicated to finding ways to exploit the reward pathways of the human brain, the system was designed to shift costs onto the vulnerable individuals who just needed a little bit of extra money to make ends meet. By the time my life fell apart and I signed up to become a rideshare driver, the entire ecosystem was already established. Waves of drivers were signing up every week to wear out their personal vehicles driving strangers back and forth across town for meager earnings. In Uber's offices, executives reveled in the endless praise of the media who lauded them for disrupting the stagnant taxi industry. Across the country, an army of drivers was chasing a phantom dream of being one's own boss, shuttling people to and fro over long nights and early mornings, while Uber's executives appeared on magazine covers. The nature of work in America was changing, transforming so rapidly that traditional structures could barely react to the rapid decay of the American lifestyle. In the 1990s, futurists had dreamed of a world where technology would make every person's life safer, easier, and more rewarding. Far from a safety net, technology reinvented the sweatshop model of piecemeal work that had once been abolished in America by pesky regulations like minimum wage. And millions fell into the system because traditional work no longer paid the bills. The new method had its own name, one that soon became ubiquitous: the gig economy. People were now free to work when and where they wanted. So long as they chose to forgo decent earnings and workplace safety, the sky was the limit. By placing all of the earnings responsibility on the drivers, Uber had perfected a passive model of wealth extraction. Do none of the actual work, and skim a percentage of the money earned by drivers for the company. That the system was not yet profitable was a problem to be handled in the future. As long as customers preferred a stranger's barely regulated vehicle to a taxicab, rideshare would grow like a weed, and the model it presented would eventually be adapted to everything from food delivery to grocery shopping. The technology created a world of digital servants that lived just out of sight, but could be conjured into existence to provide consumers with any number of services. At the tap of a screen, your own personal genie would bring you your heart's desire. Just don't think too hard about whether the genie has to sleep in their car at night. I spent many hours in my car mulling over the events that led to my state of precarity. But even if I was isolated from friends and family, I wasn't alone. Over thousands of rides, passengers listened to me just as I listened to them. In